Good evening, everybody. It is indeed another day that our good Lord has made. We are rejoicing and we are glad in it. Today is Tuesday, the 14th day, the second Tuesday of the month of January, and we are back with us live and in living color for another episode of A Deeper Dive. Deeper Dive is an opportunity to dive deeper into God's word. No matter how long we preach on Sunday, we never, ever, ever, I do say never, ever, ever get a chance to share everything that we have studied, and therefore we don't believe that God has given us this time of study and preparation just to leave it on the cut room floor. In movies, Pastor Brandon, they have to edit, right? They shoot all of this content and they got to edit it down to about an hour to 2 hours, and a lot of good stuff
Yeah,
is left on the cutting room floor, and that's why how sequels get made and how blooper, all the kind of stuff is a lot
real.
of footage.
Yeah,
Yeah, left on the ground, and so deeper dive allows us to just kind of don't leave any stone unturned, and even after deeper dive, it's still stones unturned.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think
Uh,
people
I
people may
Go
not
ahead.
understand that. Especially when you're crafting sermons and preaching, man. The what ends up making it to the preaching moment, what ends up making it to the stage, is like just a microcosm of like what you've studied and what you've actually prepared and read.
Right.
Like
A
it's just
lot
a
of factors
small
go
little
into
piece
that.
of it.
Yeah, a lot of factors go into it, man. That's why it often amazes me when, after sermons, I get it all the time. I'm sure you get it, man. And people was like, man, that word was directly for me when you said such and such. And I'm like, that's interesting because I wasn't even prepared to say that. So I know that had to be the Holy Ghost because that
Right.
wasn't even
Right.
on my radar.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man.
And so, we like to say when we start a deeper dive that God's word is so powerful, it is so deep that scholars can dive into it and never reach the bottom, but yet so shallow that babies can dive into it and not drown. That's how complex God's word is. And we are excited tonight. We always want you to like and share and tag and let someone know that you are ready. We like to tag and to share. That is being that electronic evangelist. Wherever you're watching this one right now, I promise you they have the ability to share it some kind of way. So hit that share button, put somebody's name in the comment section, and so that this can appear on the timeline. But man, this is our year of growth, right? Unapologetically, this is our year of growth. We want to grow as a church holistically, but it's my pastoral desire that we would grow individually. And I've said, and I will, continue to say, for us individually, that word growth is an acronym that stands for number one, goals being achieved. We want every goal that we set out to do to be achieved this year. We don't want to just write it. We want to be able to experience that this year. The R is maintaining a relationship with God. That is important. That no matter what our goals are, that our goals are not designed to separate us from God, but they are designed to help us to form an even deeper relationship with God. O is the opportunity to overcome your past, man. That no matter what type of past you and I may have, God has given us the power to overcome it because He's given us another day. W, walking in wealth. We want to walk in a wealthy place, man. That wealthy place is not rich necessarily, but it is having all needs met. It is living a life that is lacking of struggle or stress. And I believe God has a desire for us to do that. Transformative thinking, that when we transform our minds to the way of God, I believe that the way we see life will totally change. And then finally, H is healthy living, that no matter how much wealth you have, if you don't have the health to go with it, nothing else really matters, right? And so we're going to spend the entirety of the year in one of those categories from preaching. And of course, there's some things that we're trying to do as a church collectively, which is my vision. That's right, Sister Jones. Lord, help us to grow more. You know, we said on Sunday, I've adopted this prayer in my own personal life. God, allow me to receive growth every day in every way. Right? That something every day that I wake up, something in my life, something that I'm doing shall experience growth. That we don't want to be the same way this year. So I pray that that is also your prayer as well. Man, you've been away in Atlanta, man. How was your trip? How was things?
It was
Uh
snowy.
Snowy.
It was snowy. No, it was great, man. It was a great weekend with the family, man. I got to experience some weather that we never experience here in South Florida. So it was a good time. It was a little chilly. It was a little chilly. We had the coats and the hats on, but it was great, man. Glad to be back at home base, doing what we do through the week. So it was good.
Yeah, man. We've been in this series entitled "It's Time for Me to Grow Up," and and I said that phrase helps us no matter what age or what stage we are in life. That we want to grow up in God.
Yeah.
And it's time. This is 2025 is a good year to grow up. And when I was thinking about growing up, and we talked about this a little bit on last week, in the last sermon, man, that word grace kept showing up. That as we grow in grace, right, that we grow in the favor of God. And I was focusing on that. And as I was focusing on that, man, this passage of scripture kind of came to mind in Second Corinthians chapter 12, where God tells Paul that his grace is sufficient for thee. And I had an interesting title to this message. And again, we always try to put the link of the message so that you can go back and watch it if you have not watched it. But I called it Grace for Grown-ups.
Hmm.
Grace for grown-ups. This is and the preference of that, and you can let me know how you feel about this, is that it takes a grown-up or a level of maturity to receive a no or to receive a different answer that you've been looking for.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think what's interesting about this whole idea and even the message title, um, connecting grace to growth. One of the books that I read last year was by Pastor John Jenkins, and the book is called Grace to Grow.
Mm,
Um, a book that he recently wrote, and I think what we have to shine a light on, and what was essentially done in the message, that you need grace to grow. Like there can't be or won't be growth in a godly way if there's no grace,
mm,
because the absence of grace means that we would have to live in whatever our decisions bring us,
mm.
right? That, and typically our decisions don't, in our flesh, don't usually lead to growth.
Right.
So you need grace, right, in order to grow, because that grace kind of covers you from getting what you deserve in a sense. Um, And in the idea of being graced for that process of growth, it's directly connected to this idea of being, like you said, being able to receive a no, but still push forward with growing. Because we've kind of conditioned our mind to believe that a no doesn't lead to growth, but it actually does.
Absolutely.
It just depends on what it is the no is about, right? And I think it takes you being mature or grown up in your faith to be able to live with God's no's and understand that maybe the no is a picture of grace, right? That it actually is a picture of grace, that he's maybe protecting you from something that you're asking for, or it creates a dependence on his grace.
Right.
Whereas like, no, yeah, I want you to grow, but I don't want you to grow absent of my grace, because then you're gonna give yourself the credit for
Or, you know, God's has a different way of saying yes.
it.
Yeah, yeah. He has his very own unique way
Unique way of
of
saying it.
saying yes. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
no to something is yes to something else.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm saying no to that, but yes to this.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. And he says, we're gonna dive into it, but my grace is all you need.
Hmm.
And because when you have the grace of God, it helps us to realize that perhaps I didn't need what I thought I needed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what he tells Paul essentially is, my grace is all you need. If you have my grace, it's gonna take care of everything that you're going through in your life right now.
Yeah.
And we see in this passage this shift of Paul's mentality. We see his posture change.
Yeah.
We see his disposition change, and it's kind of subtle. It really happens in 2 verses. We're gonna cover more than that, but this shift, kind of, if you're not careful, it's real subtle. It happens in between verse 9 and 10. I mean, it's suddenly,
Yeah.
but it starts off with Paul kind of explaining to us where he was at this moment of his life, right?
Hmm.
He's like, man, I'm experiencing this high level of euphoria. That everything, I'm in my own mountaintop experience. I'm up there. He describes in verse number 1. I'm in the third heavens, man.
A
I'm
heavenly
seeing,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, I'm seeing visions. I'm seeing everything crystal clear. I was caught up. He said I was so caught up, man. I don't know if it was a dream or if it was a reality.
Yeah.
And he says in the next verse that, I mean, he starts talking about how he can brag about this, but verse 7, reluctant. He says reluctantly, I'm going to kind of share with you my experience, right?
Yeah.
And he says, then he drops it on us. So to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the midst of God's glory. I'm in this glorified state. I'm in the state of joy and happiness, and all is well. Everything is going right. And I'm expecting another gift of glory. And Paul says, God gives me this gift I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
It's a thorn in my flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that he's describing this heavenly experience, right? That he pretty much is saying that, like, I got a glimpse of heaven. That's how great this was. And the flesh in me could boast about that, right? And not that he would have done that, but it's almost like the Lord was like, just to make sure you don't,
Mm,
just to make sure that you don't boast about the heights that you've been able to reach. Some translations say he was gifted with a thorn, like, a gift. Happy birthday, right?
Right.
Like, you go, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Here's
Right.
a thorn, you know, so that it would keep him with a level of humility because, a lot of people can't handle success, man.
Mm, that's true.
A lot of people can't handle what comes with, we talking about growth. A lot of people can't handle that in a natural sense because as soon as something grows, they're ready to boast about it or talk about it or tell everybody about it. And sometimes along with the growth, God has to gift you with something that's going to keep you grounded, right? Where it's like, okay, you can experience this success, you can experience this growth, but a part of that, like in the fine print, God has to give us something that keeps us grounded in Him, and that's really what this was all about, right? Where He's like, okay, yeah, I experienced this, but so that I would not get big headed, so that I would
Yeah.
not try to take the glory for myself, or so that I wouldn't begin to exalt myself like I did this. The Lord gave me something to remind me that I'm just a mere human.
Yeah. And you're right that God has a unique way of humbling us
Mhm. Yeah,
and keeping us grounded
yeah,
and keeping us in a posture of needing Him.
yeah,
And it happens right in this. I mean, this. I called it in Sunday. I believe this ecstasy. I mean, he goes from this ecstasy to reality just like that.
just like that.
And we all have those moments, right? That I think in the sermon I talked about being on vacation where, well, it's euphoria, man. No stress, no worry, and it's like the closer you get to the time to come back,
Yeah,
that reality starts setting in.
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
got to go back to work. I got bills.
yeah,
It that you start coming down, and if we're not careful, it happened like that on the Mount of Transfiguration, right? It got so good, they like, Master, it's just good for us to be here.
yeah, yeah,
They say, man, let us build. It got so good up there. They said they wanted to build their own statues.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And God said, now wait a minute now,
Hold on now. Hold
hold
on.
up now, y'all done got too comfortable. Yeah, go back and like, y'all done got too comfortable. Yeah,
Everybody can't.
yeah, we're gonna build one for you, one for me. No, no,
Um,
no, no, no. There you go. I gotta prick you.
yeah,
Because for every mountaintop, there's also a valley.
valley. Yeah, everybody can't handle heights, man. Yeah, can't handle the heights. So he has to keep us humble, and I think that's a good lesson on humility because humility shows that you can handle growth.
Yes.
Like you got to be able to handle growth,
Right.
and a part of that is being able to maintain your humility through it. Like, can God trust you with growth?
Can you have wealth and whisper?
Right.
Or do you have to be noiseful? Do you have
Yeah.
to,
Well,
we're gonna deal with that, at some point this year, man, how, we want to walk in wealth. Okay, you could do that without the whole world knowing
yeah.
that you're walking in it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting, man, about this is that this gifting of a thorn was not a solo mission on God's part. But the text says it suggests that there was some it was co-conspirating with Satan.
Right.
There's a
Right.
message from Satan. Like, hold on, how is God gifting me something that's a message from Satan, a messenger from Satan?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
almost like they were in cahoots, right? Where God is giving you something, but Satan is using that something to keep you grounded. Like God is actually using Satan to keep you grounded. And we all know that Satan can only do what God allows, right?
Right.
It's Job, right? Hey, I got a hedge. You got a hedge of protection. If that hedge wasn't there, I would do this, this, and this. And God gave him specific rules about what he could touch and not touch in Job's life. So Satan can only do what God allows. God allowed Satan to use this thorn in his flesh to do whatever it was supposed to do. But the big picture of it was God keeping him grounded.
And it's funny you said that because I dealt with one of the aspects of the speculation of the thorn. One of those is really found, and I don't think I gave the verse. Is he had people in his life that for lack of a better term, hated him, could not understand him. And you see that in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, when Paul spent a lot of time kind of defending his apostleship.
Yeah.
Kind of, because he was Saul, right? But he says something in chapter 11 that really blessed me. He says, listen, let me tell you something. I don't consider myself in any way, New Living Translation says, in any way, to these super apostles who teach such things. But then he says, and maybe this could be part of his thorn. I mean, I'm not a skilled preacher.
Mm-hmm.
He says this about himself.
Yeah.
I'm lacking knowledge.
Yeah. We
made this clear to you in every way. Paul went around saying, I got this thorn, and this may help a preacher or somebody who doesn't feel like they're worthy, right?
Yeah.
The thorn is, I know that without the grace of God, I wouldn't be doing this.
Do it. Yeah.
Because I'm not gifted enough.
Yeah.
It's amazing that the person who wrote more New Testament scripture than anybody else says to himself, I'm unskilled.
Unskilled, yeah.
And I'm lacking knowledge.
Yeah.
And that torments me. That bothers me. That's what keeps me humble.
That's what keeps me humble, right? Because I don't think I'm.
That's what keeps me grounded.
I don't think I'm good at this, right? Yeah.
Right.
I tell you
that all the time. I'm not all that.
Right. I tell you that all the time. And I'm like, man, I really don't think I'm that good at this whole preaching thing.
Right.
That's just
and
what
Paul went around basically saying, I done told you this 1,000 times.
Yeah. And
y'all think more of me than I think of myself.
Right. Right. And that you know what that tells me? And this text really shows us this, that grace is not just about what you can live without. It's about what you can live with and still go forward and pursue purpose, right? It's not just about, I don't know how I'm going to do without that. I can't do without this or that. Okay. No, it's also about what can you live with? What realities can you live with and still be purposeful? What thorn can you live with and still be purposeful? What restrictions, right? You said it's unskilled. What restrictions can you live with and still be efficient and effective? So it's not always about what, having the grace to live without something. We need grace to live with some things.
Yeah.
Whatever your thorn is.
Right. Right. Moses had to do it, right? You're like, man, God, you want me to talk to Pharaoh? I can hardly speak.
Yeah.
I got a speech impediment.
Yeah.
That's my thorn.
Yeah.
And God says, no, I'm not going to take that speech impediment for you.
From you, yeah.
From you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take this thorn from you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And, but there was something else that although they hated his apostleship, man, he went about telling people, I don't know what y'all hate me for. I'm not all that. I'm not that great.
Yeah.
But then, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this Sunday, and maybe even more pressing when we read the book of Romans chapter 7, Paul lets us know, man, that he has some habits.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the thorn, right? The text is not clear as to what the thorn is.
Right.
So it gives us room, for the lack of a better term, to speculate. Right?
Yeah.
Like what Paul, what you struggling with, bro?
Yeah.
What's your thorn? He said, man, I'm gonna be honest. There's some things I want to do good, but I do wrong.
Yeah.
It's sin living on the inside of me, Romans 7, verse 20, verse 21. I discovered that this is the principle of life. That when I want to do right, I inevitably do what is wrong.
Yeah.
I love God with all my heart. It ain't the fact that I don't love God,
Right.
but there's something powerful within me
Yeah.
that's a war with my mind. The power makes me a slave to sin that still is in me. This is Paul the preacher talking now. He says, verse 24, oh wretched, miserable person that I am. Who will free me from this dominated from this dominated sin of death? Then verse 25, thanks be unto God, the Son. The answer is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But Paul literally lets us know, man, that he got some struggles.
Yep.
He has some issues.
Yep.
He loves God. He wants to do good. But when he want to do good, he ends up doing bad.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the thorn that's in his flesh. And as you said, God used him with the thorn.
With the thorn. Yeah. 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 And
We don't condone sin, but yet we see time and time again how God uses people that have a sinful nature.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you the idea that from a sin perspective, right? And no matter what the sin is, the principle is the same. That as it relates to this text, maybe God won't take the urges or the temptations away, but his grace will allow you to see and discern the way of escape and give you an opportunity to not give into the urges that the thorn is creating. Because think about it this way, if you didn't have urges, or you weren't a sinful person, then it really wouldn't be a battle. You don't even, I don't urge that. I'm not tempted by anything. I'm just, so I don't
Yeah,
do it.
certain things you're not tempted by because we're not all tempted by the same
We're not
thing.
all tempted by the same thing. So it's, you kind of need that, because it's interesting that although God doesn't like sin, he didn't remove the sin, right? At his request, he didn't remove it. That would have been an easy fix. Like, Lord, you don't like this. I don't want to do it. Can you just remove it? No. But why not? Well, because then you won't need me.
Ah,
Then you won't have, there would be no place for grace.
ooh,
Right? So
no,
God,
no
God,
place for grace.
there'll be no place
Somebody
for
ought to
grace.
put that in the chat. There will be no place for grace.
No place for grace. If he just removed it, then it'd be like, all right, that was easy. Now what? So there would be no opportunity for God's grace to manifest or for him to have need of it if he didn't have the thorn. So it's like, all right, I'm going to create a level of dependence on me. And he does that by making sure that we still have that thorn in our flesh.
Yeah, and God says, I did it so we won't be lifted in pride, man. That whenever you start trying to judge somebody else, talk about somebody else, you know, just all that stuff we try to do, he says, remember now, you still got that thorn in you. You still got that thorn in you now.
Right.
Don't. All right.
Right.
We're not saying condone it, but be careful how you try to condemn. Now you still got your thorn in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I got to leave it there so you won't be lifted in pride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you won't spend all your time dogging and dragging somebody else's name in the mud, because I got to keep this as a reminder of your own sin, your own struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just because it may not be the same struggle,
don't matter.
It's still a struggle.
Still a struggle. Still a struggle. Yeah, there's no weight differences, right? There's no point system.
No.
It all is what it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It definitely will keep you from pointing the finger or that reality changes how you handle other sinners, right?
Yeah.
Especially because Paul was a leader. Paul was a leader in the church, even from a leadership perspective. Like, all right, yeah, you're a leader. I've called you to do this, but that don't mean you look down on other people because you got problems too.
Right. And that's why I say grace for grown-ups, because it's grown-ups who need grace, but it also takes a mature grown-up person to extend grace.
That's right. That's right.
It's a two-way street. I know there have been several times as a pastor, as a leader, that, man, I had to grow up and be like, man, just extend some grace, because the child in me wanted to just cut off, let go, get rid of, but it takes a level of maturity
Yeah.
to extend grace.
Yeah.
It
And
does.
it does. It does. And the best way to do that is by first seeing that you needed grace.
Right. Right.
Like, you know what? I
Absolutely.
needed the same grace, so I definitely need to extend it.
Right.
Right? I'm not above any of this.
Right.
So who am I to not offer to somebody else something that I've needed?
What I've received.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you think about it, grace is for grown-ups. Like, grown-ups, and even in a natural sense, are the people that need the grace,
Yeah.
because you don't start walking over into that territory where you need grace until you're doing things that you know better than to do.
Yeah. That's right. Thank God
Right?
for grace.
Thank God for grace. And kids don't need
Because
grace.
grown-ups do grown-up things.
Children don't need grace. They need guidance because they don't know no better.
Ooh, God Almighty.
Right? But grown-ups know better. So you don't need guidance because you already know better. You need grace because you knew better and you did it anyway.
God Almighty.
Right? So
We received
grace,
the guidance and still.
grace really is for grown-ups, because kids, that's not what they need. They need guidance.
Ooh, that was good.
So when you've grown up and you know better, but you don't always do better, that's when grace comes in,
My God.
because you shouldn't have done it, you did it, or So grace is reserved for grown-ups, if you ask me.
Yeah. 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 You absolutely right. You set him out for there. You set him out for there. But listen at what he says. 3 different times,
Yeah.
right? I begged the Lord to take it away. As you said, Lord, this thing hurts. I don't like it. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you to take it away.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 different occasions talks about the constant communication with God, which is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
3 different times.
Mm-hmm.
And, where would we be? What would our communication level with God be if we didn't have a thorn?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The thorn room gets us to the throne room.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
We
right.
at the throne of grace because of the thorn.
Little thorn. Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I gotta talk to him. I gotta be in constant communication, because
Yeah.
if not, this thorn gonna get the best of me.
3 different times. It's not, he doesn't suggest it's a repetitive prayer like one prayer, Lord remove the thorn, Lord remove the thorn, Lord remove the thorn. No.
No.
3 different
3 different
occasions.
times. Yeah.
I asked you once, didn't happen. I came back, asked you again, came back. I'm constant begging you,
Yeah.
pleading with you to remove it.
To remove it.
And I talked about, being lackadaisical in our prayer, man, that literally, if we were honest, that the thorn has really, really elevated or grown our prayer life.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. That's right.
So our prayer life has grown through a thorn.
Through a thorn. Yeah. Yeah. Because that unfortunately, we don't always reach a level of maturity where we will pray without, and I'm using these words carefully, without needing to. Because we always need to, right? In reality, but we aren't always mature enough to really be consistent with our prayer unless we find ourselves in some kind of need,
Yeah.
right?
Bible says King James
Unless
version, man ought to always pray. Ought
right,
to. Right.
ought
Ought
to.
to always pray.
But the truth is that our prayer life is the strongest when the problems are the strongest.
When we feel like we need to.
When we feel like we
No different than anything else.
right,
No different than exercising. No different than anything else.
yeah,
We don't do it until we need to. And the doctor say, all right, now, we
right,
don't stop drinking. We don't stop smoking. We know we need to,
yeah,
right? You know, we ought to, right? Man, I gotta stop smoking,
right.
man.
Yeah, yeah,
But until the doctor show us that those test results and show us our lungs, now you realize I need to.
I need to. Yeah,
I should have been did it.
right. Yeah, and he has to, you know, unfortunately, keep us, like you said, with the thorn because that's what keeps us at the throne. And problems, say what you want about them, but they do increase our prayer life.
Yeah.
They just, you know, you maybe you pray once a day. You kind of got your routine. You know, when you wake up, when you go to bed, that's your normal, right? And that's great. But when you got some real problems going on, you like
The frequency rate goes up.
frequency goes up. It's like, man, I'm every hour, you know, lunch break,
Right.
you know, and,
Right.
you know, throughout the
Right.
day, in the shower, like, you know,
Right.
you just like find yourself, and it's like, okay, well, if that's what it takes for there to be communication, then here's a thorn that's going to require you to really depend on me and really pray. So change your perspective on your problems or on your thorns, so to speak, because it's God's way of keeping you in communication with him. Because you need you if you're gonna survive with it, there has to be that communication with it.
Right. And again, we're talking about this scenario. The pertinent question is, why didn't God remove it?
Yeah.
Because as you said, he could have easily removed it. He's God.
And a
He's
situation
removed some things before.
that would have been easy work. That would have been
Right.
nothing. Now, what I like about this reality is though that this changed what Paul was praying for. It went from, and if you think about it in a personal sense, praying that God removes it to praying that God just helps you to bear it.
Right.
And
And the
that's usually
response did that.
the response.
God's response did that
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
telling him each time, my grace is sufficient.
Yeah. 3 prayers, 3 responses.
Yeah. Same prayer, same response. There's this boxing match with God. And we keep going blow for blow, tussling, but
The
my
answer
response is
is
not going to change.
the response is not changing.
That's why I like the New Living Translation, because it says each time.
Each time.
This
Yeah.
wasn't, no, each time this was the same response.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, watch this, we say God is not speaking or God is not responding, but in reality, he is responding. We're just saying that because he's not responding the way we want him to respond.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, we give God, we put a silence on God when God hasn't been silent. No, he spoke clearly. He just said he didn't say what you wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
This wasn't like, we talked about this a few weeks ago, the woman where he answered her not a word. No. He answered.
Yeah.
My grace is sufficient.
Yeah. I mean, he was persistent in his prayer though. That's
Right. Persistent.
but
Per,
the answer wasn't gonna change.
and I label this as patience, man, because it does take a level of patience
Mm-hmm.
because of what he said in this particular version of the text, that my grace is all you need. Because again, I'm praying because I think I need something else. I think I need you to remove this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it requires a level of patience because God is not going to remove it. And I've got to pace myself to recognize that I'm going to have to live with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of removing it, he made it a reminder.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to be patient in my own process of understanding that, yeah, when you have a life incident, a life tragedy that changes the course of your life and how you do things, it requires a level of patience.
Yeah.
To know that I may not be able to do things like I used to.
And patience requires you to grow up and be mature. Especially because you look at a story like the persistent widow, right, where she keeps going back after getting the no and no and no and no until finally, because this widow keeps bothering me. All right, give her what she's asking for. But the reality is that God doesn't always change his mind. That sometimes that no stays a no, and you have to be mature enough to be okay with that and to be patient with whatever this process looks like that you're going through. Whatever patience takes maturity. That's why kids they're not patient about anything because they're not
Right.
mature. They're children. They want now. They want it right because they don't understand patience. But the expectation is that as you grow up, so does your patience.
Right. Right. And for me in my process of formulating this sermon, this is where the topic is birthed.
Hmm.
Because from what you just said,
Hmm.
that grown-ups are forced to be patient.
Yeah.
We have to be patient.
Yeah.
This growth process that we're going to experience this year, it's for this year, but not just for this year.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which means that a person is growing this year, but they're not going to be all grown up this year.
Yeah.
Think about that. I
Yeah.
grew this year. I'm growing this year, but I'm not going to be all grown up this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some goals that we're going to meet in totality, but there's some goals that we're going to meet in stages.
Yeah. That's what growth is. All growth doesn't
Right.
happen overnight. Yeah.
Right. Right. And I believe in both. I believe I've got some goals that I want to get accomplished in totality this year, and I got some goals that I want to get off the ground this year.
Yeah.
Because every goal won't be fulfilled in a 12-month calendar.
Right.
If it is, it probably wasn't that big.
Yeah. That's right. That's
If your
right.
goal is to be a doctor, fine.
Ain't gonna happen in a year.
It's not gonna happen in a year.
Yeah.
There's some goals you're gonna meet throughout this year, but it's not gonna happen in totality.
Yeah.
But guess what? Every goal matters. Every stage matters because you will never get to the end if you don't follow the process.
Yeah. Growth takes patience. Like you you won't really experience the full potential of growth in any area of your life if you don't have patience. Because without the patience, you're gonna stop early. You're gonna stop before you reach it because it's taking too long. So really, this whole process of growth takes patience. Like, you gotta have it, and if you don't, you will abort the whole process. And the um, the problem, if you will, or the place where we have to really be careful about um, this whole idea of a thorn, right? And trying to grow with that thorn in you, because think about it, even from a natural sense, a thorn in your flesh obviously is painful, but what makes it even more painful is when you're trying to move with that thorn in you.
Yeah.
So, and anyone that's experienced any level of pain, I know I have experienced a lot of it. Pain makes you want to just be still.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to move a muscle, because if I move, something is going to hurt.
Right.
And the we got to be careful with that, though, because pain does not mean stay in place.
Right.
Like, you still need to be going after that. I know you got this thorn and it's painful, but you still got to go after the growth. You still got to
Right.
take steps. You still got, he's going to give you the strength. He's going to give you the grace. It's not going to be easy. I know you got this thorn, but you still got to take the steps towards going after that grace, because just because he let the thorn sit, it doesn't mean he's giving you permission to stand still.
Yeah, he says it in the text. My power works best in your weakness. I said on our prayer line today that we have to redefine what wait means spiritually. So
Yeah.
often we think of wait as doing nothing and we're waiting on God.
Yeah.
The wait is not you not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what spiritual waiting is.
Yeah.
Spiritual waiting is, as Donnie McClurkin says, after you've done all you can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I'm just waiting on God. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Have you done everything you need to do within your power and in your ability?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
To
absolutely.
just sit back and wait on God to do something God has given you the power to do, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
It does not work that way.
It has to be an active waiting. You know,
Right.
I think one of the best inventions, one of the best ideas that anyone has come up with is this. It's like a callback system,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it because you call these places Xfinity and all these
Right.
places, and they put you on hold. And instead of you having to just sit there on the line and wait, you can press a number, and they'll say,
Mm.
"Hey, you're gonna keep your place in the line, but we're gonna call you. You're ready to do this, right?" So
You keep working.
you could still keep working and do whatever you got going on, but you're still waiting, but you're actively waiting. You're still being productive, and when we're ready,
Write that down, man. That's a sermon. Don't y'all steal this sermon, cause I'm gonna preach it. Working while on hold. Woo! Woo! Oh, I like that. I like that. I like
yeah,
that. I like that.
it lets you to work while you're on hold, man,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir.
you don't lose your place in line.
Yes, sir.
They call you back when they're ready for you,
Yes, sir. I
but you
like
don't
that.
but you don't have to sit there on the phone doing nothing, waiting. No,
Mm,
you can still be active. You can still do what you need to do. And when they're ready, when it's your turn, you get a call back.
mm.
That's active waiting.
Active waiting.
So when we're waiting on God, man, you can still be doing some stuff.
Yes, sir.
And trust me, he will get your attention when he's ready for you.
Right. And a lot of and I wrestle with that in pastoral leadership. Um, you know, I was talking with somebody today, and they said, "Oh man, Pastor, I love you because your vision is so big, and you seemingly don't let anything stop you." And I'm like, "Yeah, man. I think if God gave me something, he's not just giving me something for 5 years from now. Hey, I feel like, this movie that we produced recently, man, I feel like, hey, man, that if I was at a church with 2,000 members, it would have been just, I don't think I would have worked any harder. I might have been able to do a little more with a bigger budget because I had no budget.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I'm just working, man.
Mhm.
I'm just working this play. This play that we're working on. I don't think that the building itself would hold it if it's attended well, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm working. I'm not gonna sit and hold everything God has put in me for a bigger church or this or that. Listen, when it's my turn, when it's our turn,
Yeah.
God gonna make it abundantly clear. But in the meantime, we gonna work. We gonna do excellence. We gonna do ministry at the highest level we possibly can. That's active waiting.
Yeah. I think one of the most important times in our life is the meantime.
Mm,
It's what do you do in the meantime?
yeah.
Like in every sense. What do you do? The quote unquote idle time. What are you doing in the meantime?
Yeah.
What are you doing while you're on hold? What are you doing while you're not actively doing what it is you want to do on a large scale? What are you doing in that time?
Mm,
Are you just sitting and just like, nah, I'm waiting for the time? No. What are you doing in the meantime?
right.
Because the reality is that we spend more time in the meantime than we might realize.
Mm. The meantime can't be idle time.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And that is what we must grasp in this season of growth, man. That God has a unique way of, and someone said it, making room. That gift that God has given you,
Mm-hmm.
whomever listening to this right now, if you want to work it, he'll make room for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll make room for you.
Yep.
And it'll blow your mind. I said, I don't know if it was Sunday or last Sunday, he'll start opening doors that you didn't knock on,
Yep.
or doors you had knocked on previously and they didn't open then, but they're opening now.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling my wife my schedule for this week, and Thursday, I've got to do this. I'll be at 3 different churches on Thursday alone. I'm teaching at one of them. I'm doing consult and work at the other 2, and all in one day. I'm getting one phone call, 3 different phone calls.
Yeah.
Like the whole day is lined up.
Lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, boom, 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 boom. And it's God showing that I'm going to grow you every step of the way. Again, that's why I said every day in every way.
In every way. Yeah. Yeah.
With the thorn in your flesh.
Yeah. Right.
With this pastoral thorn. There's a thorn that, we're going to probably talk about it Sunday, that I want to get out of me. That I want to get this done. I want to check this goal off and get it out the way. But as we're getting that goal accomplished, there's something we can't just sit back and say, we putting all our money, time, and resources on this. No, we're going to do this and that. Somebody ought to put that in the chat. This and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we're not careful, we can still miss out on greater opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about in your personal life, it's not just a one person goal. Now it goes from the wife's goal to the McCord family goal, right? You could do both.
Right.
And it's painful.
Right.
It hurts. It doesn't feel good, But at the end of the day, two goals are going to be accomplished in similar time periods.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I'm not sitting here crying about the fact that it hurts.
Right. Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's a thorn. It ain't going nowhere.
Right.
I was talking to
I
a
live
person
with-
on prayer line today, talking about her son. And I said, here it is. We can't be ignorant of the devil's devices. Where there's growth, there's growing pains. Right? There's growing pains. So if God has you in a place that it hurts because you're away from home, we're going to fight through it. We're going to press our way through it. We're not coming back. We're not aborting the mission.
Yeah.
That's just a growing pain you're going to have to deal with. This is part of your growth.
Right.
I'm not bringing you back home. My grace is sufficient.
Right.
I know you're homesick. I know you feel like you ain't got no friends. My grace is sufficient. You're not coming back
Right.
until you ever finish the assignment.
Yep.
And that's for a young man in our church.
Yeah.
We're going to tell, this is your assignment. This is your thorn. Deal with it.
Deal with it. Yeah. Yeah.
He ain't taking it away. You're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because the enemy will come in and make you feel uncomfortable and let me just abort this mission because nobody has taught on growing pains.
Right.
Growth is uncomfortable. Ask any pregnant woman, they'll tell you growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You toss and turn, can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
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 It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah. In every sense. In every sense.
In every sense of the word, man.
Yeah.
He reminds them, man, that my grace is sufficient, man.
Yeah.
And that I work best in weakness. But listen to what he said. We gotta go. In the same verse, remember, I told you when we started, in one or two verses, Paul's whole mindset shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says in that same verse, verse 9, so now I'm glad to boast. Remember, he was talking about boasting before.
Right.
I'm glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ is working through me. Wait a minute, Paul, that is a major shift in a quick period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've realized that his grace is sufficient, I go from begging to boasting.
Yeah. 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 And it's what he's boasting about.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's boasting about his own limitations, his own weakness, the thorn in the flesh. Now he's celebrating, he's praising God, as you said earlier, the fact that I'm still functional with this thorn in my flesh. Because it's easy to shout when the thorn is being removed.
Right. Right.
All survivors of cancer won't be because the cancer has been removed.
Yeah.
There's some people surviving cancer with cancer. Y'all don't know when to shout.
Yeah.
You miss your shout.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some people right now surviving cancer with cancer.
Yeah.
And they boasting. They giving God praise.
You say, I'm a cancer survivor. Oh, it's gone? No, I'm still there.
I'm surviving with cancer. Y'all don't know when to shout.
I'm a cancer survivor. What? It's gone? No, it's still there.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor, though.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what Paul said.
Yeah.
He said, now that I've got this revelation from God that his grace is sufficient, I gladly boast about this now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That God is working through me.
Yeah. And that was the whole point of the thorn. So that he would boast correctly, so to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Thank you so much for what you did to me at Pastor Moorehorn Church. I will not forgive you, Pastor Tori Phillips, for what you did. at Pastor Moorhorn's church. I will not forgive you, my friend. Thank you so much. But thank you for watching. Okay, continue. I'm sorry. I just had to put that in the atmosphere.
Dr. Phillips on the line. Yeah, man. You know, that was the whole point of the thorn.
Yes, sir.
That, okay, it's not that I don't want you to boast,
Mm,
is that I just need to make sure you're boasting
about the right thing.
about the right thing.
Woo!
I need to make sure that your boasting does not magnify you, but it magnifies Christ.
Mm,
So boasting wasn't the issue, but
yeah.
he wanted to make sure that he didn't boast about that heavenly experience. Like, no, no, no,
Ah,
no. That's not what I want you to boast about. I want you to boast about your weaknesses, because when you boast about your weaknesses, and here's how God gets glory in that
mm,
people will see you elevating, people will see you growing, people will see you doing great things, and you have to be careful how you boast,
right.
because when you boast about the weaknesses, that shines a light to Christ,
Oh, absolutely.
where you like, no, 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 okay, y'all see all this, but let me let you in on my weaknesses. It is only through the power of Christ that I'm able to do this.
Yes, sir.
It's all
Yes, sir.
about where we're shining the light at.
Right.
So if you're gonna boast about your weaknesses in the midst of success, in the
Right.
midst of growing, in the midst of people seeing all these great things you're doing, boast about your weaknesses so that the right person gets the credit.
I did all that with a thorn. I saw Nicole, I think it was yesterday or even today, man. She's there in Colorado looking amazing, looking good. I mean, she boasting, man, the body looking good. People don't know what she's gone through or experiencing. They don't know, they don't have a full appreciation of the boasting,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? But
yeah,
for those who know her struggle, those who know her sicknesses, those who know what she literally went through,
yeah.
can appreciate the fact that God is giving you permission to boast
Hmm.
because He's worked that thing through you.
Yeah,
He didn't take it out.
yeah, yeah. If the boasting is going to give God the glory, that's what He wants,
Yes, sir.
and you have to decrease yourself
Yeah,
in that boasting so that he can be elevated, so that Christ is the name that's being elevated there. Because we don't like to boast about our weaknesses now.
no, we can't. We
We
live in a society,
don't do
man. We
that.
live in this fake, false society that that doesn't. You can't have flaws. Can't have weaknesses.
Hmm.
Can't have failures. Every every Sunday was better than last Sunday. Every Sunday, 50 souls got saved. We had more money than we ever raised before. Church was filled. That's all we hear. That's all we hear about church.
Yeah,
But what about, okay, the church wasn't full, but yet God still made sure all needs were met.
yeah,
What about that kind of boasting
hmm,
and bragging on God?
yeah,
What about when we counted, we didn't have it, but some kind of way, God made a way?
yeah,
What kind of, you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
This false lack of struggle that we see going on via social media is troubling to me.
hmm, hmm,
But I believe God gets more glory from those who can testify. I don't make all the money in the world,
hmm,
but yet God is yet supplying all of my needs.
yeah, yeah,
What that type. He says that's why I take pleasure
yeah,
in my weaknesses, my insults, my persecution,
yeah. Hardship.
because it's when I'm weak. It's when I'm weak. What if the excuse me? What if the strength of God can't be revealed because we're too busy trying to be strong ourselves?
And that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's why it says, in our weakness, His strength is
Yeah,
made perfect.
yeah,
His strength can be made perfect in your strength. It's it's in our weakness. It's in our the reality of our weaknesses and our acceptance of our weaknesses, that God's strength is made perfect.
Yeah.
That's literally that's the only way that his strength can be on full display.
And we got to lean on that. So, Twan, we got, I didn't really end it well like I wanted to with this focus, but we lean on his power, man. We got to lean on that. We got to lean on his power, literally to the point of leaning. You know, when you lean, when you put all your weight on that thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about when you just, if this thing don't hold me, I'm going to the ground because I got all my weight on this sucker
Mm-hmm.
here. That's the type of leaning God wants us to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we got to do. And that's our vulnerability. That's our weakness. Because in that moment, that's when we're the strongest. I know it sounds oxymoron. It sounds crazy. But one thing I'm learning in this season of my life, real faith sounds extremely foolish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, it does.
Yeah.
When you are fully leaning on God, oh my God! If you're not surrounded by the right people, man, they will categorize you as crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It's because it's a fine line.
It's a fine line. I gotta lean on. I got this thorn of lack, this thorn of struggle, this thorn of sickness, all of that you're going through, but I'm still moving. I'm still gonna do it. God still say, go forward, keep moving.
And that thorn forces you to lean. That thorn, I mean, any kind of pain. You have you bent over, man. Have you leaning, right? Trying to lean on something.
Yeah,
That thorn forces you to lean on his power.
it absolutely does. It
And
absolutely does. And I'm in a season of my life with that. Pastorally, man, I'm just like, okay, God, I'm gonna lean on you.
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lean, cause it's so easy to do stuff when you kind of got it, or you kind of know how it's gonna work out, or you like, but man, you don't give God a chance to really blow your mind
Mm-hmm.
when you only function at that level.
Yeah.
Every now and then, and if you haven't tried it at some point in your life, take a bold step of faith on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's the most scariest, successful thing you will ever do. Because when you stepping out there on his word,
Yeah.
that's what Jude said now on him, and he is able to keep you from falling.
Yeah.
Blind faith, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a leap in the dark. It's God, I'm trusting you. I'm putting all my weight on you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And growth, that's a growth. We gotta grow as Christians. We gotta grow into that level of
Go
faith.
into that. Yeah. Yeah.
So for those that are watching, man, this whole growth thing, I want you guys to take this thing personal, man. I want to grow as a pastor, as a Christian, as a leader. I want to grow. I want my faith level to increase so that others can see, well, if God is doing that through our leader, if our leader is trusting God, then I can trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got some personal things that I want God to do. And I was sharing with the pastor today that I really do believe this in our heart as individuals. Whatever we do and accomplish for God's house, he'll allow us to accomplish it for our house.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Yeah.
The things that we do for God, he's gonna allow you to experience it. You can't be excellent for God and God not turn around and do excellent things for you.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right.
We got to trust and believe that.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So his grace, Sister Kelly, his grace, French, his grace His grace, Tawana, his grace is all we need, man.
Yeah.
It's all we need. It's and pray we are able to do this. I wasn't feeling the best at all, man. I mean, I was not feeling the best at all. I was leaning. Trust me, I was leaning. Uh, my wife had a king. I say, well, I felt your eyes watching me, son. She was, yeah, it was not gonna be a Texas moment. If I would have 1 ounce, she was gonna cut. I was thankful because I didn't know if I was gonna make it through the message. I felt drained, but God gave us power to get through it, and so we're grateful for that.
It's grace.
As well, His grace.
Yeah.
Oh God, His grace was so sufficient Sunday. I'm like, okay, and it's just me and you, God. It's me and you. I was looking at it like I was not surprised. It was the shortest message I preached in a long time. I said, yep, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that. And the funny thing about it, we out of our time, but here's the funny thing. I've been praying. This is the craziest thing. God has such a sense of humor. I've been praying and asking God for shorter sermons.
Well, he gave it to you.
I really have. I be like, Lord, I want to be a little bit shorter. I want. It's
He's like,
okay.
I got to drain your strength to make you shorter.
I'm gonna prick you. I'm gonna prick you with this little illness here. And so be careful. Be careful, man. You gotta be a little more. Next time, I'll be a little more specific. All right,
Yeah.
Lord. Lord say, now I gave you what you asked for now. I mean, come on now. I said earlier, He said yes in another form.
Right. Right.
Oh God. Man, that's our time, man. We love you guys so much, man. We're looking forward to next Sunday, this Sunday coming. I'm dealing with a message that speaks to the fact of we have a right to change our mind. When we're growing, we have a right to change our mind about what we accept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw that little hook out there.
Yeah.
That growth is sometimes no longer accepting what you've accepted.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you've always
accepted this.
Was good. You always were good with this.
Yeah.
What's
And
changed?
That's a sign of growth, that you're not accepting what you used to accept.
What's changed? I'm growing. So yeah. I'm telling you, this growth is not just uncomfortable for you. It might be, brace yourself, P2B Nation, it might be uncomfortable to some people that's connected to you. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's right.
Because you can't let how they feel about you stop you from growing.
Yeah.
So I just gave you a little nugget out there of what we're going to deal with Sunday. God gave me that word. Wasn't on my preaching radar. And so God gave me that word, so I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to share it. Last thoughts, man, as we close out tonight.
Oh, man. Another wonderful installment, man, as we kind of just journey through this year of growth, man. I think, like we've been focusing on this month, we all got some growing up to do. And we need grace for it. And one of the things I know, man, is that God graces us for whatever He wants us to grow in. And whatever level of growth He wants us to experience, He will grace us for it. And He will give us the grace that's needed for it. So, even with a thorn, even with a thorn, man. So, let's go on boasting about our weakness.
Boast, man. Boast. You help me with that, man, because our weaknesses don't even have to be a secret. When we're boasting about how God is using us in the midst of it all, man.
Yeah.
We always give you opportunity, well, not always, but there are those who sow into this deeper dive without us even mentioning it. But as always, man, if anybody watching this, you feel led to sow into this ground, this work that God is doing for us. We're getting ready to start this project, and I said to the church for the very first time in my 14 years, I'm starting a work without having the money to finish it. And wife even asked me today, "Hey man, what are we gonna do?" I don't know. We're gonna do it, and we're gonna see what happens. But God told
Mhm.
me to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Call me crazy, but um, God won't be made out to be a liar. But if God has blessed you and God has pricked your spirit to sow into this work, go ahead and do that now. Uh, Zion, we're excited about some renovations, some things that we've been talking about that we're gonna press forward in doing. I think it's gonna be a marvelous look and feel and flow. It's gonna help us to be able to continue to do some things that we want to do creatively with our children, and God is blessing us. So we want to be able to kind of modernize some of the things at our church, and so we'll be blessed to do that. So continue to pray for me and pray for us. And we look forward to seeing you this Sunday. Some of you I haven't seen all year. So we're looking forward to seeing you. But until then, may God continue to bless you and keep you is our prayer. Be blessed. Good night.